Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Welcome to the first episode. I hope to keep today a short and sweet one, and hopefully it's something insightful. I want to start off by asking the question, what motivates you? What drives you? I feel like this is a question that's been asked for many decades, and till today, people are pondering on it. So I've recently read a book called Drive, hence the title of the podcast, where Daniel, the author, touches on the topic of motivation. He describes different types of motivation and what keeps some people going while others give up. Now, I feel like this is such a relevant topic and a great way to start off this podcast series, as it begs the question, why am I here today? Why start the podcast in the first place? So, in this episode, we'll touch on the two types of motivation he discusses, and I'll give you a bit of a perspective of motivation from another person, and then just how that translates into why I started this podcast in the first place. So to give you some kind of framework to work with is Daniel, the author, describes the two motivations as intrinsic and extrinsic. And he describes intrinsic motivation as made up of three different elements. Now, the three elements are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Now, he goes on to explain that autonomy is having the opportunity to lead a life of one's own. Mastery as having the desire to master something that really truly matters to you, that you would be passionate about. And purpose as the desire to serve something greater than yourself. Now, extrinsic is pretty much what it says, and that is external factors or external forces such as fame and monetary reward. Now, I do feel it is quite an interesting take on motivation, and he does describe or reference some tests and studies that was done on people and to prove these theories and these kind of motivations. Now, as you might expect, the result of these tests came back as displaying intrinsic motivation as sort of the long-lasting, the more sustainable kind of motivation, whereas extrinsic is sort of a short-term, fleeting kind of thing. Now, if we put it into an example, I mean, think about the earthquakes or tsunamis that hit certain regions in the world. People donating or people supporting in some sense, they don't expect anything back. So that is a great example of an intrinsic motivation. They're hoping that there will be a difference and they feel good being able to give and support where they can. Where extrinsic is more your salary related kind of topic, you know. It's fantastic once we really receive our first salary, but if it's 6-7 years down the line and it's still the same salary, we might not be as happy. Now, it's not the case with everyone, because some people might really enjoy their job, and that's then back to the intrinsic topic. Now, I thought about it, and it made me think, is this start of this podcast going to be a fleeting thing, or is it going to be a long-lasting thing? And yeah, I just thought it's such a good way of looking at it because it does describe various feelings and things we experience in our lives. But however, I do think there's a different take on it. And listening to someone like Jocko Willink the other day, he describes motivation also in a very different kind of light. And he describes motivation as a feeling that comes and goes. It doesn't matter whether it's there or not. Discipline is infinitely more important. He then further goes on to say in the interview, if you only do what you're supposed to do when you are motivated, that's leaving it to chance. Discipline will eat motivation for breakfast. Discipline equals freedom. Now, those are also such powerful statements, but I do want to say I tend to lean more towards that kind of view on motivation. And I'm not saying that those would intertwine at some point or in some way, but it is a bit of a different take on it. And I did, however, in the description of my channel, describe 2 reasons as to why I started this channel. Now, firstly, I started this because I've really grown to appreciate working on myself and doing stuff for myself and wanting to really grow and develop as an individual. Now, that doesn't necessarily just mean just that. It sort of relates to my entire environment. It's the people around me, you. It's the world I live in and its wonderful workings. It's understanding the human body. It's understanding outer space and whatever interesting things are out there. Now, I did not consciously work to understand all these various things in life before. I've just been on sort of autopilot. And lately it's sort of gathered on me and it's sort of frustrated me if there's something that, cool, it's interesting, but I actually know very little about it. So I thought, why not just really dive deep into bettering myself in order to be better in all these fields. So hopefully with this podcast, I can achieve a slightly less stupid, less confused, but a more understanding and driven version of myself. So that's reason number 1. And then secondly is, along this journey that I'm taking, if I could just shine a slight bit of light on a topic or a view to someone else, or maybe help in some kind of way, then I would consider this a success. So those are sort of my two views and the reason why I started this in the first place. And if we were to relate that back to the book, I would say that it does translate into a pretty decent intrinsic motivation. Now, I want to leave you on that sort of topic and that thought. It is something that we can discuss maybe in a future episode, because motivation, I guess, is a big topic and there's a lot to speak about, and maybe I could dive a little bit deeper into certain studies that's been done. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's episode and thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.